In the Imperium of man, death is not the worst fate that can befall you. Billions die every day in its endless wars, and their deaths are recorded, processed, and forgotten without ceremony. Even traitors, heretics, and mutants are granted a kind of recognition in death, because to be executed is to be acknowledged as a threat. But there exists a punishment far colder than execution, a fate reserved not for the weak or the corrupt, but for the loyal. It is a decree that does not spill blood, does not fire a bolter, and does not need an army to enforce it. Instead, it simply declares that you never existed. Your name is struck from records, your deeds are erased from history, and your service is denied all recognition. In a galaxy where faith and memory are weapons, this is annihilation of the highest order. And terrifyingly, not even the Emperor's angels of death are immune to it. Space Marines are not ordinary servants of the Imperium. They are living legends, forged in gene labs, hardened by centuries of war, and worshipped as saints by the worlds they defend. They are taught that loyalty to the Emperor is absolute, that their duty is sacred, and that their sacrifice will echo through history. Entire civilizations rise and fall believing in that promise. Yet the Imperium is not built on gratitude or honor, it is built on control. It remembers only what is useful and erases what is inconvenient. When a Space Marine chapter becomes too independent, too revered, or too willing to act on its own judgment, loyalty is no longer enough. In such moments, the Imperium does not accuse them of heresy or rebellion. Instead, it invokes a far more insidious power, the authority to strip them of legal existence. No banners are raised, no proclamations are shouted. Supply lines quietly vanish. Records are sealed. Honors are revoked. The chapter still fights, still bleeds, and still dies for humanity, but officially, it no longer does so. This is the story of that decree, and of what happens when the Imperium decides that even loyal Space Marines must be erased to preserve its rule. The Imperium of man does not rule through strength alone, it rules through memory, law, and fear. Every battle fought, every martyr recorded, every victory celebrated exists to reinforce one idea: the Imperium is eternal and indivisible. Yet history has taught it a brutal lesson. The greatest threats to humanity have never come from the outside alone, but from within, from those who believed they knew better. The Horus heresy burned this truth into the soul of the Imperium. Primarchs, generals, and once loyal warriors chose their own judgment over centralized authority, and nearly destroyed mankind. Since then, the Imperium has feared not just treachery, but independence. Especially independence backed by power. Space Marines, by their very nature, embody that danger. They are self-contained armies, genetically engineered to act decisively, often far from oversight, often in regions where imperial authority exists only in theory. They do not wait for permission when worlds are burning. And most of the time, that autonomy saves lives. But from the perspective of Terra, every independent decision is a crack in the foundation. The Imperium cannot allow a precedent where loyalty is defined by outcomes rather than obedience. A Space Marine who acts without sanction, even for noble reasons, demonstrates that authority is optional. And once authority becomes optional, unity collapses. The decree that turns loyal Space Marines into non-persons was born from this fear. It was designed not to punish failure, but to neutralize success that occurs outside approved channels. Not to destroy warriors, but to erase examples. Because the Imperium understands something deeply unsettling: you can forgive defeat, you can even forgive corruption, but you can never forgive proof that the system itself is unnecessary. When the decree is invoked, it unfolds with terrifying subtlety. There are no public announcements, no declarations of treason, no dramatic condemnations. Instead, the machinery of the Imperium simply stops responding. Requests for ammunition go unanswered. Forge worlds suddenly lack authorization to fulfill orders. Astropathic messages vanish into silence. Administratum clerks discover that the chapter's designation no longer exists in their ledgers. Even gene seed tithes, the sacred biological legacy of the Space Marines, are quietly suspended, as if the bloodline itself has been deemed unworthy of continuation. On paper, nothing violent has occurred. In reality, an entire chapter is being suffocated. This is what makes the decree so effective. To declare Space Marines traitors would require proof, armies, and justification. To erase them requires only ink and seals. The Imperium does not need to defeat them in battle, it simply denies them the infrastructure that makes long-term survival possible. Worse still, the decree forbids recognition. Victories achieved by these Space Marines are not recorded. Worlds they save are reassigned credit. Statues are never built. Names are never spoken in official prayers. Over time, it is as if they were never there at all. For Space Marines, whose culture is built on legacy and remembrance, this is a spiritual wound. They are taught that to die for the Emperor is immortality through history. The decree denies even that. They may still fight, still bleed, still sacrifice everything, but their deeds are swallowed by silence. They become warriors without witnesses, heroes without history, soldiers fighting a war that officially does not exist. The loyal chapter at the heart of this story did not fall to chaos, nor did it turn its weapons against the Imperium. Its crime was far more subtle. Operating on the fringes of Imperial space, it encountered systems where governance had collapsed centuries earlier. There were no administrative officials, no tithe fleets, no clear chain of command, only terrified populations and endless enemies. Waiting for authorization would have meant extinction. So the chapter acted. It liberated worlds, established defenses, coordinated planetary militias, and ensured humanity survived long enough for the Imperium to one day reclaim authority. To the people they saved, these Space Marines were angels. To Terra, they were a problem. Their actions implied that humanity could be protected without direct Imperial oversight. That idea was intolerable. When the decree was delivered, the chapter master was not accused of heresy. He was told, calmly and without malice, that Space Marines exist to execute decisions, not make them. That their duty was obedience, not governance. His response was equally calm. He argued that loyalty without judgment is blindness, and that saving humanity was the Emperor's true will. But the Imperium does not debate philosophy with its weapons. It simply withdrew recognition. In that moment, the chapter realized the truth: the Imperium valued control more than outcomes. More than lives saved. More than loyalty proven through action. From that point onward, they fought on not as representatives of the Imperium, but as warriors abandoned by the very empire they served. Life as a non-person is brutal even for Space Marines. Without official supply lines, every bolt shell becomes precious. Armor is repaired with scavenged components. Weapons are modified, reused, and reforged countless times. The chapter learns to barter with rogue traders, to salvage from battlefields, to strike deals that would once have been unthinkable. Apothecaries work without replacements, knowing that every fallen brother brings them closer to extinction. Yet something unexpected happens. Freed from bureaucracy, the chapter adapts faster. Decisions are made instantly. Campaigns are fought without political constraints. They no longer wait for permission to save lives. And slowly, they begin to disappear, not in defeat, but in obscurity. They arrive without heraldry, fight without witnesses, and depart before officials can ask questions. Worlds are saved, and no one knows by whom. The Imperium intended isolation to break them. Instead, it forged something new, a force that still believes in humanity, but no longer believes in the Imperium's authority. This is the true failure of the decree. It does not destroy loyalty, it redirects it. These Space Marines remain faithful to the Emperor's ideal, but not to the structures built in his name. They become living contradictions, proof that duty can exist without recognition, that faith can survive without validation. In the end, the Imperium realizes it has created its worst fear. Not rebels, not traitors, but something far harder to confront: loyal warriors beyond control. A traitor can be hunted. a heretic can be purged. But a non-person cannot be confronted without first admitting they exist. To acknowledge them would be to admit the decree failed. And so the Imperium chooses silence. The chapter becomes a ghost story whispered among void crews and frontier worlds, a rumor of armored figures who arrive in humanity's darkest hour and vanish without reward. Their existence undermines the Imperium not through rebellion, but through example. They prove that the Imperium is not the same thing as humanity, and that loyalty to one does not always mean loyalty to the other. This is why the decree exists, and why it terrifies even those who enforce it. Because once the Imperium admits that faith, duty, and sacrifice can survive without its approval, its authority becomes fragile. The decree was meant to erase dangerous individuals. Instead, it revealed a dangerous truth: you can strip a warrior of name, history, and recognition, yet still fail to control what they fight for. And in a galaxy ruled by fear, nothing is more threatening than loyalty that answers to something higher than law. In the Imperium of man, history is not a record of truth, but a weapon. It decides who is remembered, who is honored, and who is allowed to exist in the collective memory of humanity. The decree that turns loyal space marines into non-persons reveals something deeply unsettling about the Imperium's soul. It does not fear disloyalty as much as it fears independence. It does not fear failure as much as it fears proof that obedience is not the only path to survival. By erasing warriors who act beyond its control, the Imperium attempts to preserve the illusion that it alone stands between humanity and extinction. Yet the galaxy does not obey illusions. Somewhere beyond official maps and sealed archives, warriors still fight without banners, without praise, and without remembrance. They bleed for worlds that will never know their names and die in wars that history will never record. And in doing so, they expose the Imperium's greatest weakness: its power ends where acknowledgement ends. You can command armies, burn worlds, and rewrite records, but you cannot erase conviction. You cannot legislate faith out of existence. In trying to deny these space marines a place in history, the Imperium has created something far more dangerous than traitors or rebels. It has created proof that loyalty to humanity can survive without the Imperium's permission. And that truth, unspoken and officially non-existent, is what truly haunts the Lords of Terra.